If Joshua Reynolds was alive today, chances are he wouldn't have been a painter, he'd have been a photographer. Mario Testino, say, or David Bailey, capturing London in all its metropolitan gloss and glitter.
He painted anyone who was anyone in 18th century England. Mrs. Siddons, leading actress of her time. Emily Warren, one of the most celebrated courtesans of the age. The Gunning sisters, who exploited the new print media to increase their marriage prospects. A Reynolds portrait worked like a passport to instant celebrity. In Reynolds' hands, nobody's became somebody's. This unknown young man from the South Seas, known as Oh My, became acclaimed throughout the nation solely on the strength of a Reynolds portrait.
Distinction, said Reynolds, is what we all seek after, and I go with a great stream of life. And he certainly did. He loved masquerades, balls, gambling, and he cultivated the glitterati of his day, the it girls, the courtesans, girls like Fanny Barton, Nellie O'Brien, and Kitty Fisher, who was so popular she was kept by an entire club. There was a rumour that she and Reynolds were having an affair. Reynolds liked this, kept him at the edge of things.
The London society that the young Reynolds first set to work on in the mid-1700s seethed with scandal and intrigue. Theatres and coffee houses were bursting, and newspapers and magazines fed the public's voracious appetite for news and gossip.
London was a happening place. It was the place to be. It was modern. It was the spirit of the age, and he seized that and propelled it forward through his portraits.
These portraits will soon be taking their place on the walls of Tate Britain, where preparations are underway for a homage to celebrity's founding father.
He moulded people's public persona. He made them look how they wanted to look. What Reynolds would do in his portrait was pick out a particular characteristic. So if it was Lawrence Sterne, who was known to be witty, he was ironic, he was satirical, Reynolds makes him look exactly that. He paints him with a smile on his face. If it was a party gossip like Mrs. Monckton, he would show her gossiping. She's actually got her finger to her lips as if she's about to tell you a little juicy piece of gossip. He used their success, he used their fame, their celebrity, in order to progress his own and launch his own. His name and their names were hitched together and kind of interdependent.
This is Reynolds' Sitter's book, the diary in which he recorded the appointments of all the people he was going to paint. It's very busy. Reynolds sensed that to be taken seriously as an artist, he'd probably have to do more than paint courtesans and contemporary aristocrats. So he set about cultivating the friendship of the leading intellectual heavyweights of his day, figures like Oliver Goldsmith, Edmund Burke, and of course Samuel Johnson. In fact, he went on to form a very intimate literary club with these gentlemen in 1764. And then, of course, he proceeded to paint them. And these paintings have come to be known as the Streatham Worthies. And here we have Samuel Johnson, most worthy of the worthies. It's interesting that Reynolds has painted him in mid-sentence, although it would have been difficult for him to have painted him in a state of repose because Johnson was a mass of twitches and involuntary convulsions, poor man. And here we have Giuseppe Baretti, a learned man, compiled an Italian-English dictionary. He also stabbed a pimp, so Reynolds' picture could be seen as something of a PR job. And here's an apparently very flattering painting of Oliver Goldsmith, a hopeless bankrupt but real intellectual heavyweight in poetry, prose and drama.
Of course, these learned gentlemen were a cut above the society darlings of the day. Reynolds made sure he painted them in the way they wanted to be seen, sober, reflective, as befits a Streatham worthy. But it wasn't just the celebrities of the day that he promoted. Reynolds was the first to realise that his most marketable asset was Reynolds, so he worked the same magic upon himself as he did upon his sitters.
Throughout his career, Reynolds painted some 30 self-portraits. He was constantly changing his image, reinforcing himself as the great public figure, the great public artist. He was a sort of an 18th century Madonna.
We have Reynolds the young visionary, Reynolds in the scarlet robes of the grand tourist, Reynolds resplendent in his honorary doctoral gown. Reynolds as adoring shepherd, Reynolds as a learned, if somewhat elderly, gentleman.
But although Reynolds adopted the style of his hero Rembrandt, his self-portraits have none of the latter's penetrating psychological scrutiny. With Reynolds, we have a change of attitude and a change of costume.
The soul, however, is missing. Reynolds' overwhelming concern with his public image and status in society propelled him to extraordinary lengths to secure his place in the annals of fame. In 1768, he became the first president of the Royal Academy of Art, Britain's first ever art school and public exhibition space. He gave an academic and intellectual gloss to the status of the artist and graciously accepted a knighthood for his efforts.
Excuse. Thank you. With his presidency, Reynolds gave his reputation an even greater substance, and he reinforced this substance by delivering a series of discourses in which he propounded his theories on painting and upon drawing. And of course, with the Royal Academy, he got a wonderful venue to display all of his paintings and to make himself even more popular than ever.
And for me, it's in this unflagging pursuit of fame and attention that the problem with Reynolds really reveals itself. There's dazzling skill and cleverness here, but he was so concerned with manipulating the world around him that the interior life eluded him. Like so many of his subjects, Reynolds became a victim of the celebrity culture he created. It gave him that distinction he craved, but it kept true greatness beyond his grasp.